Hey, what's up guys? This is Sergey. Another hopefully quick tutorial for you. Even though I planned to do something regarding Elden Ring, because I've been playing this like crazy, especially after this DLC release. But I figured out that let's do something reasonably quick and not too grandiose. Just some, alien eggs, as you might have guessed already. I'm gonna show you how you can do the geometry from scratch in Quick Shader. Obviously, I spent only like 30 minutes trying to figure out what's the best approach to do this. And with more time dedicated to this, you'll probably come up with something much more production quality rather than this. What I have so far. But still, it's pretty neat, a quick way of doing something alien-ish, and placing them somewhere in the middle ground, and you already have proof of concept. Although I like saying proof of concept, although AI generative tool probably gonna do a better job pretty soon. But nevertheless, it's a fun way of doing something like this. So let's go over it and try to do it. I'm gonna jump. So I'm just gonna kill Karma. I'm gonna jump to. As you can see, the shapes are not that complex. You probably figured out how to do it already, but let's go and do it from scratch. We're gonna start with geometry now. By the way, this time I'm capturing the whole screen, so you should see all the nodes that I'm popping in through the menus, because previously for some reason I didn't capture those. Let's go here. First of all, we're gonna start with establishing how we want to populate, especially if you want to have an ability to generate a bunch of those variations. I usually start with some sort of scatter system, right? So we're gonna drop circle. You probably saw that in my previous tutorials for rock formations. Then we're gonna just scatter some stuff. Let's start with just 8 different types of whatever we're gonna scatter, right? Then the base shape, we can go with sphere for this particular example. Let's go maybe, I don't know, I'm gonna want to have it quite high poly to an extent. Actually, let me enable the poly count, like 10,000 prims is more than enough. And we're just gonna blast half of it because we don't need the whole part. I'm gonna use position Y lower than 0, and that should blast it all. Then we can polycap it. To be frank, I think there's a lapse tool for this already. Let me just make sure. If I go sphere, yeah, there's like lapse sphere generator that kind of allows you to do this already. I mean, you will still have to polyfill it. I don't need UVs though, and that's fancy subdivision, so I'm just gonna use plain simple sphere and the blast. No, that should be more than enough. Let's use copy to points, obviously. Something like this. So, well, we have something like this. Maybe you're happy with that already. Let's just add some quick variation. I'm gonna use attribute randomize for this one. I'm gonna just use scale and iterate on the Y only. So we're gonna go from maybe 0.5 to maybe slightly more than that. And we just grab through the global sit to come up with some sort of fancy, I think that's more than enough, fancy layout, so to speak, right? So we can also try to maybe move a bit the initial shape, giving us the ability to kind of slightly merge them together, like alien eggs. Well, it depends what type of pop culture reference you're using. Kind of mold it together a bit with like some membranes and goo and stuff. So this can kind of help with that to some extent. Actually, maybe we'll just increase the scale slightly. So we want them to be a bit more egg-shaped, to be honest. Something like this, maybe. Maybe I'm gonna just slightly decrease sphere size overall. And let's play around with this a bit more until I'm more or less happy with what we have. I think we can work with that for now. At any point in time, you can go back and just change it real quick, so why not? Then it's pretty easy 3-layer noises with VDBs. So I'm just gonna... Oh, actually, you know what? To make sure we're not like adjusting super tiny fractures of those, let's scale it up just a touch, maybe twice. Because otherwise, like the noise scale and element size become so small, you will have to literally like operate within this like 0.1 point something, and it's a bit annoying, to be honest. So now let's gonna try and play with some noises here and there. I also like to enable warping. You know that I like creating warp quite a bit. And then maybe gonna just play around with the element size just to get this initial weird shape. You know what? Let's crank it up just a touch to get the initial poly count a bit more. That looks fancy already. Maybe we're gonna play with fractal just a touch. Like, you don't need to get too many details right away. We maybe even reduce the roughness at first just to get this initial distortion of those shapes, right? So then I want to melt them a bit together. So let's go VDB from polygons. This is quite a low poly one, so maybe we go with 0.1. Okay, and then I'm gonna VDB convert them back, or maybe even smooth it a bit. Let's see, VDB smooth, plug. Yeah, we're losing a bit of details. So I'm not still sure that I'm gonna do this. So let's first convert back to polygons and see what we get. I'm actually gonna disable the wire shading to have more information, so to speak. Well, that's pretty neat, I think. So exactly the same program. I'm just gonna do a second layer after we kind of tend it to the shape and make sure we're not gonna break any polygons. Let's just apply something again. As you can see, it's already kind of wacky. So first of all, let's maybe play around with element size. Usually you should go from higher to lower frequency, so maybe we're gonna do just that. I'm gonna also play a bit with the... Let's just decrease the amplitude so that we see what's going on a bit more. Like, you can see there are a lot of different details depending on like where we put our gradient warp. For my purposes, I think we go a bit to the negative side. I'm gonna keep increasing the amplitude until we get something more before polygons begin to break. Maybe just keep adjusting the element size as well. Maybe play around with add. So, like, you can do so many different variations with those noises combinations. Just gonna go over and see, well, alligator is obviously too extreme for this particular example, but we can maybe adjust the amplitude just a touch. So because you see we have like all nice bubbly shapes, but I'm not particularly a fan of that at the moment. So let's keep going. Okay, this is a bit too uniform, so maybe we go back to either Perlin or Simplex. This is a bit interesting. I'm gonna try to subtract it instead. Maybe play with the offset a bit. Element size again. As you can see, it's already a bit wacky in terms of like the poly breaking, but that's why we're gonna then repeat the same process of poly conversion. I'm just gonna try to find something more feasible in terms of shape. Because, well, that's actually looks pretty nifty, so maybe we'll keep that. So let's do the same trick. I'm gonna alt drag, do another kind of merge through the VDB, and maybe we can do the one last. You can repeat this however many times you want, maybe even combine the noises. I just like to make sure it's all kind of evens out. Let's go to Simplex maybe again, adjust this guy here, maybe add instead of subtract, maybe play around with element size again. just gonna do real quick and see if that gives us anything. Well, you have like additional details, just a touch. So maybe we increase that part here. Maybe it's not that alien-y enough, so I'm gonna see if we can slightly change that. Maybe go to the positive and subtract. Okay, that's a bit rough. Maybe element size has to be a bit larger. Okay, well, again, let's keep it like that for now and see if that's enough for our purposes. Again, I just did a random sequence of noises and then VDB conversions. It's probably slightly different from what I did in my initial example, but then again, let's see how it goes on the shading side, and then we can come back if it's too much trouble. I'm gonna save just in case, because you know, sometimes Houdini crashes like any other software. Just gonna add normals to make sure it's accurate. I'm not gonna be bothered with UVs because it's, well, a bit troublesome. If you are doing this in, let's just say, Substance, you probably have to do it accurately and properly, but you know, since we're usually doing noises here on bizarre self-production, that should be enough. So, okay, let's call it this way. I say call, but I mean, we'll just make sure it's like that. We can actually make sure that those VDB from polygons are have the same voxel size. Probably should have just done create reference copy instead of doing that. That way, every time you change the initial one, everybody will change accordingly. But you never know if you want to break it. So I'm just for now gonna link those voxel sizes one another. And maybe we can go to initial one. Let's see how heavy this will get, and it will even we get any additional fancy details that I will love. Because normally you shouldn't go that heavy on the geometry unless it's justified. Because like, yeah, 3 ml for that, maybe it's too much. So maybe go 8. Yeah, well, we have 1 ml, so let's say it's a high LOD model, right? I'm gonna save that. And we're gonna jump into stage context, now Solaris. Here I have my old eggs. Actually, we can compare them later on. I'm gonna drag and drop sub import, put our geo2, and then make sure I call this eggs underscore 2, maybe. We're gonna plug it here. Or actually, let's call them eggs as well, because otherwise we can then replug it multiple. Yeah, but this one, okay, let's call it this one, like that. Okay, so let's just double check. Yeah, that's slightly different, but you know, again, the approach is the same, so it should be fine. And now what I'm gonna do is go into material library. Actually, I'm gonna create material builder from scratch. I'm gonna call it egg of x mtl, or eggs2 rather. I tried play around with material x, but I didn't found all the nodes that I would like to have to play around with. Maybe it's just lack of experience, obviously, since I'm not proficient with material x just yet. But you know, I prefer just do the old-fashioned vex shaders just for now. Then we make sure that now material library we point to that material. Geometry path is eggs, which is fine. Dome light, I just have some studio HDR, so we're gonna go here. I'm gonna save again just in case. Let's go to Karma and see if we start getting anything so far. They're just black, which is weird because they shouldn't be, but probably actually because there is no surface here whatsoever. Let's go and put classic shader. I'm still a big fan of that guy. Gonna plug it here, gonna plug displacement in, and good to go. Okay, so now we at least have something. cool. This step is complete. Let's go and do our usual stuff, breaking down things one by one. All right, so first of all, we need to come up with a mask that will drive a lot of nice features of those procedural eggs. Well, in my case, I use curvature, so we're gonna do that right now. We're gonna say curvature, we're gonna grab position and normals from our surface globals, and at the moment I'm gonna plug them into diffuse color just so that we could see what's going on. As you can see, it calculates pretty fancy mask. Let's try to adjust it a bit to make sure it's, well, not that detailed maybe. I'm gonna decrease all of those guys a tiny bit. Well, maybe not this one actually. So I need a tiny bit more separation between those two. Okay, let's try, maybe we can do the rest with fit range, who knows. Okay. Just gonna try to increase the contrast. Oh, okay, that's too much. I need to have this sweet spot, but it's a bit weird that it kind of goes that way. Okay, well, I'm gonna clamp that mask just to make sure. Although, I mean, it's just an old habit. I know for a fact that this guys will be only till 1, so there's no particular need to clamp it. But if this is gonna be our I'll just say we're gonna call it null out color. So whatever we apply here, just in case, will be clamped, right? So okay, this will be our mask. Maybe I'll create another null here, calling this mask. Actually, call mask 1. And now let's do our usual stuff of just making the textures. You probably can find a lot of stuff on Megascans of alien nature. But then again, my tutorials are usually kind of exercise of how we would think and go about doing stuff procedurally, rather than, you know, relying fully on prefixed assets. So I'm gonna go for a unified noise static version. It's a bit slower than, you know, your average turbulent or anti-aliasing noise, but that should be enough for us to test. We're gonna go multiply our color, which we're probably gonna put in some gooish spectre. So well, let's just start playing around with this. Okay, I'm gonna parent frequency right away to the same one, because I don't want to change 3 digits instead of 1 every time. Maybe go for 5. That's interesting. Fractal type, we are okay with standard. Again, you know me, let's go for gradient warp and do some fancy distortions of those noises to get interesting pattern right away. This is actually cool, so maybe go for 2, something like that, and maybe layer the second one as well. So go here, I'll drag our first noise, we're gonna multiply, or maybe use maximum actually, hold on, maximum probably gonna be the better option here. 10, 10, this go for 5. So we have slightly bit more variation. Now before we multiply, maybe I'm gonna use fit range over here. Make sure it's not completely 0, maybe 25 should be enough, so it wouldn't be that dark. Click 0.1 for now, right? And maybe just to top it off, I'm gonna use another turbulent noise, like to our position again. And we're gonna also drag fit range just in case, and we're gonna multiply by those. Maybe use simplex and make sure it's not that low. I'm gonna parent those together as well. Maybe we could increase the contrast a tiny bit. So let's plug it directly to see what's going on, because when you start layering noises together that much, there's a good chance, yeah, that it's just already a bit wacky. Which would be cool to know that new Copernicus shading system, because I would really love to play with that. Okay. Let's see what noises I'm using here. Let's go back to alligator just to see what's going on. Okay, finally, cool. Now, it's already pretty nice, I think. Maybe I'm gonna increase contrast just a touch. And I apologize if I, sometimes I lean too forward and my mic is not picking up properly. So let's see. Gonna just plug the noise. So this is our first layer. Oh, it's quite dark actually. So let's make sure it's not going that far. So we just need some pigmentation, but that's about it, right? So we're gonna call this whole section is our I don't know, layer 1 should be fine. Then I'm gonna, first of all, let's move it a bit higher up. I'll drag the whole thing. We're gonna slightly change all the, first of all, maybe we change the color to, I don't know, a bit reddish. And then we're just gonna change a whole bunch of offsets here, so it's not the same in any way to begin with. Gonna drag in all those guys. And maybe just change the noises a bit here and there, just to get slightly different thing. Okay, I'm still unsure how it will look, but still, we'll find out soon enough. So now we have all those two layers. Let's combine them together using our curvature mask, which was right about here. Actually, we have a mask output over here. So let's do it with multiply first. So we're gonna multiply each layer correspondingly. So we go, this one should be multiplied by our mask, right? And this guy, we're gonna multiply it by the complement of that mask. Okay. And then we're gonna layer them all together via maximum node. That should give us the, gonna plug it to our out color. And we're gonna plug our out color to diffuse. Okay. I'm just gonna double check. I think layering is fine. So the rest would be just fine tuning the colors a bit. For this guy, maybe a bit greenish. And maybe less saturated. Even more so, actually. For the red, which is our second layer, also tiny bit darker. Something like that. Cool. I'm gonna save right away. So the next step would be play around with roughness just a bit. We already have our mask, but I'm gonna drag and drop the fit range just a bit. I'm gonna recheck by replugging it to a diffuse color like what we're having in our mask. And then I'm planning to do the following. I'm gonna plug this into roughness to make sure we have like wet underneath the, well, currently it's like white spots, and the rest would be a bit more rougher. So actually to do that, I'm gonna complement that mask here. Okay, make sure we not breaking the fit range to begin with, right? Oh, actually, I was a bit dumb because I could have just inverted the outcome of the fit range. It would be much more easier. I'm gonna uncheck complement. Yep, and we can actually, you know, if you're working with Nuke and you usually have an option to like Control Shift X the node to make sure you plug it somewhere else, you can do it here as well. If we go in Edit Hotkeys, and we search for Reconnect Around, which currently I don't have anything assigned, I'm just gonna use Control Shift X, I'm gonna apply, and now we can actually extrude this node and plug it over here. Cool. And now we're gonna use this as a fit range to go to plug to our roughness, which would be specular roughness somewhere here. I'm gonna replug our color here. Here we're gonna put a null saying that this is our roughness, so that we know for a fact out rough. Okay, so this is, let's go for a bit of adjustments here. First of all, let's go to reflection. We don't need code. GGX, it's fine. I'm gonna just decrease it a tiny bit to make sure it's not that drastic. Diffuse is okay. So here we have like the very base setup. We can also add a bit of breakup into our pattern of the roughness. For example, I can just drag and drop some turbulent noise from here. We're gonna again just plug our complement node into color just to see what we have. I'm gonna multiply this guy by the noise. Increase the roughness. Something like that. Although I'm gonna fit range it a bit to make sure it's not completely zero. Okay, and then we're gonna plug this into our initial fit range, which goes into roughness, and then we're gonna replug our diffuse color back, just to create a bit of a variation in terms of intensity of how rough our reflections are. Because this is kind of, you know, we also have this weird, very bright studio light, so you would see that it's not ideal, right? So you don't get this super organic look just yet. Let me just double check here. Maybe we're gonna go for 1 over here and 15 over here. To make sure it's not super on. Okay. So now I'm gonna save real quick. What else we can do? Well, first of all, the subsurface, right? Also, using the same approach, we're gonna grab our curvature mask, which we already kind of used a couple of times. Maybe I'm just gonna grab this fit range node. Just gonna plug it here to verify what we have before I'm plugging this the subsurface, which is, well, exactly what I'm planning to do. Like those extruding part, we're gonna make sure they have tiny bit of translucency on them, and the rest would be pretty much opaque. So let's try and plug in that into our SSS intensity, which would be somewhere below, I guess. I don't know why it's like this. It's not properly grouped, but no mind. Gonna replug our color. So subsurface, we're gonna enable that just a bit. We already have our intensity mask. I'm just gonna rotate it towards the light so that we could see what's the difference exactly in there. Maybe we go for like acid green just to see when we get it. I'm gonna increase the distance until I see the change. Okay, cool. So we already see that. Maybe we're gonna decrease it just a bit here. Okay, and I think I went with more yellowish color initially. Let's just compare before and after. Yeah, it just has tiny bit of subsurface, which is just enough, I think. I would even go back and redo the where's our second layer? Maybe lose the intensity on the red a bit. Maybe shift it slightly a bit towards yellow. So let's see, because I'm starting to lose it a bit. And I want it to pop, but not so much. Okay. Something like that. Again, I'm not a big fan of a current roughness. I don't know what's going on there. Trying to make it sharp, but maybe I should just reduce the intensity of it a bit to make it not that reflective to begin with. Okay, for the nice like cracks of sorts, the ones that you probably saw on some of the Alien VHS tapes or DVDs, for those who don't know what VHS is. I'm gonna grab our curvature again. This time I have to grab the whole node because I'm gonna be changing it slightly. We're gonna plug into the diffuse color just to see what's going on. And I think there was a way of me, I forgot exactly the values that I got in my initial example. I probably, if I don't get it right now, I'll probably just have to copy paste that node from there. Which is not the best way, but then again, I already established the curvature there to make sure it's kind of covering what I need. So this bit was a happy accident for me, and I completely forgot, it seems. So let me pause the render real quick. I'm gonna go to our Vex material, and I'm gonna grab the emission color, emission color is from here. I'm gonna grab all those three. I do apologize, but I'll show you what sort of values we get from there. I find that it kind of replugged to the wrong complement over here, but I'm gonna grab this, gonna grab and put it here, and we're gonna restart the render. And I'm not getting anything, which is funny. Let's disable fit range. Oh, okay, so just slightly a bit different in terms of theory mapping, I guess. Cool. All right. We're gonna replug our color back here, and we're gonna plug. Let's see actual values for curvature. Oh, it's like completely at the bottom. Okay, then I'm gonna plug this one into a null that we're gonna call, oops, out emission, and we're gonna plug that into our emit intensity, which we're gonna find eventually here. Okay, one bit about the vex shadings that I'm not quite understanding and follow. That emission doesn't work out of box like this. So what I did there is I actually layer unpack it first. So we have to layer unpack our layer, right? And then we layer pack it. It's weird, I know, but I didn't find the way to fix it for some reason. I'm gonna plug it all here. And then I'm gonna go for surface exports and plug the layer. And now we're getting our emission for some reason. God knows why. Let's go for some greenish color first. Actually, maybe I plugged the wrong map, it seems, because it's is it the one that I did here? I'm gonna remove the complement to make sure. Okay, yeah. Because I need it almost completely. Okay, cool. So something like that, right? The idea is there, at least. And we're gonna use another noise to break those ones up. Gonna grab it from here somewhere, doesn't matter. And I'm gonna multiply it over here. Fit range over here. Something a bit more frequent. And just adjust the remapping to make sure we're not letting through the all the cracks, but maybe even let's make it 5. Not quite following why it's not breaking up in the weird. Wait, okay, let me do our usual trick and we're gonna plug it and diffuse first. I'm gonna disable the animation. So maybe I need to increase the maximum here first. Okay. could go with alligator for this one. Okay. Go back to our diffuse color and enable emission again. And maybe even readjust the curvature just a bit more. Okay, that's too much. Yeah, because in this case, instead of like the cracks, I made some veiny structure on top of the X, which is funny but a bit annoying. But you got the point. So if I pause this, probably should have gone with the Solaris viewport, but we can do right here. If I'm just gonna do this, bam, and you probably will see this guy here. Whoop. When I'm gonna go and replug my eggs that I did here, eggs 2. First of all, see how it works with them, this material. So because probably the difference in curvature resulted in whatever result we got over here, because those ones a bit more convex, while those guys a bit more concave, and that you see very hard rim on which the curvature occurred. But it's funny that material-wise, I got pretty much the same result that I had initially. So if we replug up my material, let me just first of all do another collection here. Maybe I should have rotated this a touch. And then we're gonna apply our initial material and see how big of a difference we get. Yeah, okay. So I think it's more of a roughness difference mostly. So we have this one, those ones are more wet. Those ones curvature is a bit wacky, but you get the idea. I mean, the more time you spend on look dev, the better. So unfortunately, I don't like doing like, hey guys, input exactly those numbers and you get the desired effect. I'm more of a try to find out it yourself and see what works and what don't work, or rather doesn't, because more times than not you come up with something that you didn't even expect to get and it looks way cooler. So that's the motto, which is a bit long, but you know, I follow it. So yeah, there you go. I know that it's not probably the most constructive tutorial that I've made, but I had to come up with something, guys. I'm too preoccupied by doing the stuff that I can't show you, unfortunately. So yeah, that's pretty much it for me. It's gonna be for 45 minutes. Oh my god. Yeah, very quick tutorial indeed. So thank you guys for watching, and I guess see you later. Cheers. Bye.